Hello, my name is Victoria O'Malley, and I'm presenting a case analysis for Metropolitan Community College in their quest for institutional effectiveness. At MCC, the Chancellor has set a directive to assess the institutional effectiveness and has appointed a project lead to oversee the initiative. Through a series of committees and consultations, the results have been reported, and now MCC must leverage the data to make changes. MCC has an enrollment of 80,000 with 8 different colleges within the district. It offers credit-bearing programs, vocational training, as well as adult education. At first glance, the organizational structure is very hierarchical, but that's to be expected within a larger system such as MCC. The Institutional Effectiveness Project aimed to better understand if MCC was fulfilling its mission to provide affordable access to education. A 20-person steering committee was created and multiple workshops were offered to help convey the purpose and value of this district-wide project. This has been a 3-year process with 3 phases, and perhaps on the surface appears to be somewhat extended, but really a lot has been achieved in the 3 years, from the time the Chancellor set the directive in fall 1993 to the time of the final report in winter 1997. Based on the case study, it appears a shared governance approach was used. While faculty have expressed some concerns about the intent, generally there has been widespread participation. However, it's time for MCC to take action, but the project has lost steam. One cause of this problem is that stakeholders may not have seen this as a long-term project. Just to agree on the indicators and obtain the data took 3 years, which in the sluggish pace of higher education isn't uncommon, may have felt like a slog for those involved. Next, MCC had to contend with faculty misperceptions about the initiative. Finally, that focus of the workshops and committee meetings were essentially on semantics without time dedicated to devising a plan for enhancements was problematic. Other information is still needed to have a clearer understanding of the issues facing MCC. First, I would inquire if the consultants were still on board and what they recommend for the next phase. Next, I would seek more information about enrollments. Then I'd like to know more about whether there was a long-term strategy for enhancement and action. Finally, I want to know more about the Chancellor's involvement. This was his directive, yet there was little mention of him throughout the case. Now let's discuss the warranted actions for MCC. Researchers Daffron and Jordan refer to institutional effectiveness as a cyclical process that requires closing the loop. So if we first look at the components of institutional effectiveness, you have assessment, accreditation, and accountability. The accountability piece requires some kind of action. So when we look at the institutional effectiveness cycle described by Robert Head, we see some clear steps starting with purpose, then establishing goals, then comes evaluation, and finally the use of results. This final stage is where MCC is currently stuck. This cycle resembles the stages outlined by Birnbaum in his description of the life cycle of academic management fads. His final stage is where plans fall apart due to lack of leadership, improper implementation, and lack of resources. The program lead must clearly establish the motivation for the plan and reiterate that any changes that come from it are rooted in the need to improve the institution, opposed to reporting to external sources. Being transparent about the motivation may help ease fears of the faculty. A shared governance approach should continue, and by distributing responsibility among campus stakeholders, it will increase everyone's sense of ownership. Finally, communicating the results of the assessment and any changes will be critical. Next, each college should devise an action plan that identifies ways to enhance their college. Daffron and Jordan recommend colleges set annual objectives and create action steps. This will allow each college to customize the direction and serve the needs of their own community. Additionally, part of effective organizational change is the visibility of actions, so stakeholders can see that change is successfully occurring. Finally, senior administration must provide resources to help facilitate changes. As the data revealed, new students were underprepared, and low graduation and transfer rates were plaguing MCC. To fix these issues, funding will be needed at each college. Welsh and Metcalf put it very simply, that without administrative support, institutional effectiveness is likely to be discarded as another failed management campaign. This idea was corroborated by Birnbaum. Another quote that demonstrates the need for leadership to financially support initiatives comes from Manning, who says if faculty and staff are expected to use results, administrators must provide the needed resources. I propose that leadership allocate funding to each college to help make improvements. Welsh and Metcalf recommend tying performance to budgeting or implement a performance funding model in which allocation of funding is based on achieving performance outcomes. This was evaluated at community colleges in Tennessee and found to be effective. In conclusion, it's crucial that MCC closes the loop of the institutional effectiveness cycle so they can continue to assess and make improvements based on data and fulfill their mission.